All right, gentlemen, will you count me down to 10 o'clock? Then we can start promptly. This is why I don't like television, because it's like this moment of anticipation. All right, very good morning, everyone, and welcome to this wonderful masterclass on the future of the performing arts, particularly when it comes to funding. My name is Africa Melane, and it's my joy to host today's masterclass. It's part of a series of masterclasses that the Artscape is putting on to mark 55 years. And please make sure that you stay tuned to this channel for more as the weeks unfold. On behalf of Mr. Zach Gordon, who's the chair of the council, we welcome you everyone, not only joining us virtually, but the very full room that we have here at Isibaya. Why don't you give yourselves a round of applause for giving up your Saturday? I have an esteemed panel alongside me who I'll be introducing in a moment to talk about the future of the public arts and funding. We're going to take about 45 minutes where I ask them some questions, and then I'm allocating as much time as possible to you to ask questions of the three. In the room, we also have representatives of DCAS as well as the City of Cape Town, and I believe Charles will be speaking on behalf of Mzansi Golden Economy. So we can really take a range of questions. The only thing I will ask is that when you get the microphone, you introduce yourself briefly, and then without preambling it with a dissertation, ask a specific question to our panelists. To my left, I've got Dr. Marlene le Roux, the Chief Executive of Artscape. Next to her is Beth Arendse, the Chief Executive of Business and Arts South Africa. And Cornelia Faasen is the CEO of NATi, as well as Chair of the Festival Enterprise Catalyst. Dramatic moment there, Cornelius. What happened? Marlene, let me start with you. Why these masterclasses? Why are these conversations important for you?
First of all, I want to say thank you. Wow, it's 10 o'clock and we're full. And masterclasses is important that we engage and demystify arts in general. The building, compliance, funding, how to get access to funding, applications, why you feel that I don't get through to anyone. What is the hurdle? What is the obstacle that we together as administrators and as artists, creative industries, can then share our knowledge and also have a broader community in order to spread this. So the master classes are based off sharing knowledge and also demystify this whole thing of why is this organization getting funding and not that organization, but also demystifying about the spaces that we are in. And not all of us have had the opportunity or had access to spaces, for instance, like Artscape. So hence, when we have designed the 55 years, we said, let us have truthful conversations and let's talk to each other so that we can look at the future together. It can't just end here at 55.
Absolutely. Beth, the default sometimes when it comes to performing arts is that government is supposed to provide the support and the infrastructure that will enable the performing artists and the theatre makers to really showcase their talent. And while that is true and important, at an earlier conversation we had, not too far away from here, just down the piazza at the St. Worcester Fairs, you said there is a lot of money to support the performing arts. Do you want to expand a little bit on that and why, while it's important for us to rely on government for support, let's also look somewhere else?
Thanks, Africa, and thanks for having me today. It's lovely to be at Artscape. Actually, there's never been a time that I'm aware of, and I've been in the arts a long time, that there's been more capital mobilized towards the arts than now. But the problem is, the gap is that we don't have enough investment ready, in inverted commas, arts entities and businesses for the uptake of this money. So there's work to be done on both sides. There's work to be done on our side as artists and creatives to position ourselves correctly. And then there's work to be done by entities like BASA and others to actually also challenge the funding and funders that are coming our way, that the models don't necessarily fit our industry, because we need fit-for-purpose funding for this industry. Our value chains are different. You know, performing arts, film, music, you've got very long development phases that needs patient capital before you get to market and you get to where you're going to sell a ticket or distribute a product or whatever. And a lot of commercial funding and other types, venture capital, those types of funding, they're not built for that. So there's a desire. People are seeing the importance of the creative economy, the value of it. But they're using the traditional models out there to bring their capital. So it's this, I think we're at that point now where we've got to be very intentional, and that's some of the work BASA's doing, of saying, right, we want your money, we need your money, but you meet us halfway, and we will meet you halfway. We will look at our compliance, like Marlene says, our sustainability potential. We'll think a little bit more entrepreneurially. We'll see how we can put something together that has a value proposition, understands its target market, you know, that we get a bit more familiar with structuring ourselves so that we're good recipients of this capital.
Because I imagine there are a lot of theatre makers here who have product ready. They've written the story, they know who they want to cast, they know which stage they want to go on, they have designers lined up and all of that. What do you mean investment ready? Because they're going, but I have the product, just give me the money.
Arts funding will say, that's fabulous, here's your money. Other type of money coming from impact investors, coming from, I'm talking about capital that is part loan, part equity, you know, different types of money, not donor funding only. You need a bit more of a compliant business structure to access that. But we can do that. We have audiences, we sell tickets, we make money. We just don't package ourselves with that type of money. So we've had one funding model in the arts, and that's grant funding, donor funding. And we all know that pool is too small. Even if it was run hyper efficiently, which it isn't always, it's not enough. It's not going to get us where we need to go. So it's a critical part of our funding. But we've got to look at other types of money, not just donor grant funding. We've got to start building those funding pipelines. And that's some of the work that I'm taking on at BASA right now.
Yeah.
Is challenging that status quo and saying, I mean, there's a very large bank right now that's put literally billions of dollars towards film. But they're struggling with the uptake on the ground because they're not finding the entities are compliant enough in heavy commercial business terms. So where's that middle ground where we meet each other? BASA is launching an investment readiness accelerator for the arts in October this year.
For all
across
arts.
Genres,
Yeah.
across genres, where because you can go to an incubator, a generic one, they're not necessarily going to understand our nuances.
Yeah.
So that's some of the work that we've seen, that we need this investment readiness program to take you as a market-ready performance, or whatever your theatre production is ready, your film is ready, and get you into that space where you're ready for the types of investment that are available.
Cornelia, 6.3 billion rand, I think, is the cut of the slice that DSAC is going to be getting. We're only getting 28% of that, which is just under 2 billion rand. A lot of it administered through provincial structures. And one of the important sources of funding has been the National Arts Council. They've been in the news recently because the council is dissolved following a labour dispute. What does it mean for the performing arts and those who are seeking the traditional form of funding?
You want to get me in trouble straight away? It's not
Pretty much.
what we're going for. Okay. Challenge accepted. First of all, can I just say I'm extremely nervous to be here today. Because, I mean, look at this audience. There are people here in the industry that I greatly admire. So please bear with me if I stutter a bit. No, look, Africa, obviously this is part of an ongoing narrative in our sector that things are not managed well, that we get money but we don't know what to do with it. We just in place that we sorry. Yes. Further away. Okay. Oh, sorry. So I think it's hugely detrimental to our sector that this sort of thing is happening. And we have to really investigate, how is it possible that a council is dissolved based on a labour dispute? Where are the mechanisms that are supposed to be in place to ensure that these labour disputes are resolved on a different level? How can we have a position for a CEO that they're trying to fill, but the council is not operating? That the level where it impacts artists, where these decisions are meant to be made in terms of how the grant funding is going to be allocated, but we have a council that's not operating. I mean, so we can talk a lot about how this is going to be resolved, but the bottom line is these systems are not functioning, and it's not good for our sector that once again, now the artists are, I mean, the messages have been flying in our sector this week. People know that now they're going to have to wait again. So what the solution is, I mean, the solution lies at the top level, that these structures have to be recalibrated from the top and from the bottom. But it's not going to get resolved by appointing a new council, especially not if our minister is making the appointments. It's just going to add to the narrative that why is the minister, who is he appointing? How are the appointments being made? So I mean, it was so deflating and demoralizing this week for everyone in the sector. We're so dependent on these small grants, and then that is being delayed again because we can't resolve a labour dispute in government. I mean, it's absurd.
I'll bring you in just now, Marlene, but speak a little bit to what Beth has said, that there's a lot of investment-ready money that the arts sector could exploit, because in the absence then of a functioning National Arts Council or a grant funding system that we all acknowledge is slightly flawed, we need to find that money elsewhere. So how are you changing your paradigm, your business model, whatever the case may be, in order to access that private money?
Yes, well, I think the correct word that you just used is paradigm. I think there has been an acknowledgement from us in the sector that, yes, we have to be, as you say, market ready, investment ready. So yes, there's a level on which we need to sort out ourselves, say, how are we getting more compliant? How do we, if the requirement is that you need to be an NPC, for example, make sure that your registration is in order. If the requirement is for you to have audited statements, make sure you get that done. So there's a level where we also have to understand that there are business principles, there are assessments being done in terms of our risk level, that we need to get our house in order. Yes, we acknowledge that. And at the same time, I agree that there's the level where government funding and private funding needs to meet. And there has to be a middle ground, and there has to be a way we can figure out how to do this properly. But also, there has to be a paradigm and a narrative shift in terms of what it is that we offer. So we can't constantly be told, what is the return on investment? What are the business principles that you embrace in the arts? The paradigm shift has to happen on the part of big business, especially in South Africa as well. And I just wrote a piece for the newspaper about this, that there's a level on which we in the arts, what we provide is not just a market-ready or sellable good. And it's important that we get those things in place as well. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge that what we offer society makes a contribution that cannot be quantified in financial terms. And if we don't get big business to understand what we offer has intrinsic value, not monetary value, then we're going to keep struggling with that discussion. And it's an exciting discussion. It doesn't have to be combative. It can really be about changing narrative and changing paradigms. But in order for that to take place, we need to understand the vocabulary that we use when we speak to big business. Don't ask me what the return on investment is going to be. The social good is your return on investment.
Yeah, that's important. Marlene and Beth, I'll get you to respond to that in a moment. This challenge in the funding landscape places a lot more pressure than on entities such as the Artscape, not only to make sure that the doors are open and that people who are creative and want to showcase their talents are able to do so, but many people often ask, and this is an uncomfortable question I haven't prepared you for, why are we not seeing a greater allocation of your budget going to commissioning work?
First of all, we need to relook at a funding model for our creative industry. This is what we need to advocate this. There should be an in-depth discussion, but also in-depth evaluation of the current funding system on all levels. And we're sitting here because we are worried. Secondly, there are sometimes opportunities, but just for the mere fact that you need to get transport to get to that opportunity is a big thing, because you don't even have the basic money to get there, and you have huge challenge of you have the talent, you have the product, but you can't get to that opportunity. So it's all these layers that we are packed in this particular arts creative industry. That's why we sometimes see the same persons over and over making art and getting the funding. I'm just straightforward and to the point today. It's about robust discussion. Even if you need to say this is what we're not doing and we're supposed to do. What I'm saying here in particular, we as a theatre, as a government institution, I want to make it very clear, as a government institution, we're getting funding to run this elephant. This elephant is as big as 3 rugby fields. It's water, it is electricity, it is maintenance of this particular stages, it is lights, it is all of those things. That basically is what we saw. We're a receiving house. What is lacking at this particular stage is that the part that we need to receive, that's why we need to work with the City of Cape Town, with the provincial government, and I'm happy that William is also here and the provincial government is also here. I'm also happy that the Fahim is here from the Baxter, who's part of UCT again. When we talk about government institutions, the over-compliance of this building is a hell factor. Let me tell you, for every single, even for me to buy a coffee for you, I must go through how many hoops? Am I right, William? SEM, supply chain management, just to be able to do anything. If we have an artist happen to be on our stages and it goes through our books, 25% tax. That artist perhaps only have 1 gig for the entire year. Then that artist must pay 25% tax. These are the things that needs to be re-looked at so that we can say, how do we support artists first? Lastly, I want to say, Africa. We embarked on associated companies, which is of utmost importance. If we don't have this associated, Alvis is here today as well, representing Alvis Sabiko Studios. If we don't have the associated companies in the space, and it's not to say that you're in the space, you are automatically getting space on the theatre space, because you can go perform all over. But we support you because you need to be in this particular space. And that is an important factor that I want to say, that we have embarked as Artscape to have associated companies, not just in this building, outside of this building, in order to support companies. And this is my absolutely last. The challenge also is that William them are doing it from the provincial government, where they set up a desk when it's application time to demystify what is it. Why can your organization get funding? You need to have XYZ. You need to be tax compliant. You need to do all of those things in order to be considered even to get funding. So these are the things I think I want to throw it out there to say, how can we make these applications much more user-friendlier?
Yeah.
Thank you.
As a taxpayer and a person who, through my main job as a broadcaster, have been talking about the outcomes of the Zondo Commission, and we know the problems with state capture. Bureaucracy is a mess, right? It is cumbersome, it is inconvenient, but it is so necessary in order for us to at least limit the opportunity for people to charge you 200 Rand for a cup of coffee when it only costs you 22 Rand, kind of thing. And to put on my auditor hat, which I was before I got into this world, that theatre maker charged 25%. If they're a registered taxpayer, they'll be able to get a refund at the end of the tax year. So they will get back that money. Back to the original question, though. Why, or is there an appetite for the Artscape and similar houses across the country to go to government saying, thank you very much for the money to maintain the building. We want to get that intact. But can we also have an extra fund that will allow us then to actually commission work? Because I'll tell you why. I mean, the curtains are lovely, the carpets are beautiful, the chandeliers are amazing, but I care more about what's happening on stage. And I worry that we, as the Artscape, are not giving, we make the space available, but we're not creating any work with the artists. Does that make sense?
Totally. That is why we're very clear we don't have an artistic director. We have a similar model, which I don't think all theatres have that. It's very unique. We have plans where we look at, number one, if it's our jazz program, we have experts in jazz that sits and make the auditions. If it's drama, it is that. Experts that sit and go through all those things. Applications comes through because we are very clear. We are not going to compete with arts organizations or artists to produce. Because if we're going to do it, then who we are going to be those producers. Then what about we are busy 365 days. Just now in this particular week, every single day, we had 1,000 kids to come and see productions like Mzansi, who is their set works. We had the set work of Hamlet that is coming now, but we also had the set work of Adam Small, Mac Jacobs. We also had, currently, we have Killing of a Unionist. I'm just saying. So it's very important that we need to look at what are we, especially States Theatre, what is it that they must do? Are they going to play in the same space? Because then there won't be a space for Elvis Abiko to produce his show that was...
I'm going to counter that, because
No,
if you work out a formula that says X% of time on stage is going to be for this Artscape produced, let me tell you what my vision is. I would love a world where the Artscape, along with the state and the Playhouse, say, we're going to pull together this money to produce this amazing grand opera, so that and the condition is, make sure you source those singers from everywhere in South Africa and have it travel to all three entities, for example. I'd love a situation where you say that classical South African text can be reimagined in that way. There is a pool of money also shared between the various centers that then can actually create work for theatre makers, for them to be on stage and for them to earn a living.
Africa, this is what we're advocating for a very long time. This is and I won't give airtime as I'm sitting here to what the minister's supposed to say, what is this is supposed to say. Our main advocating at this particular stage is for traveling productions. To travel all over in South Africa, not to Europe, in South Africa. So that we can go to theatre in South Africa, that we can share the work that is on this particular stage. We do it currently with the associated companies, where we assist the associated companies as well. If we don't give them the technical team, if we don't give them the infrastructure, if we don't give them all the tech, all the other stuff that what we're currently doing, they won't be able to travel as they are. If we produced, as we have asked so many times, collectively, I'm saying collectively, with other theatres, that will be a plus. But when we need to do that, we need to look at, unfortunately, as I'm sitting here, the Auditor General is busy in this building. And you as an auditor, you know exactly what I'm talking about when the auditors come in. You need to account for every single cent. Then there is treasury law. I can cite you all the laws. And that is the downfall currently for government institutions like us with the red tape. We skirt that red tape.
Don't say that in public.
No. I want to say it in public because you have asked me. Because I want to say it in public. We skirt that because we will ask artists, come to us. We help you and we assist you in order for you to look at the compliance, and we assist you to have a company in order for you to be on these stages.
Good. How are we going to get the CEO of a major finance house appreciating that the return on investment is not in rands and values, but in the social impact of the work that we're doing?
Okay, so there is a shift in business towards social impact. We've seen that over the last 10 years in business. How that's quantified, though, is still very often commercial. The way that I always position the arts, you see, when you lead with need and you don't lead with value, you've shut down a business conversation already. And we tend to, as artists, we lead with need, not with value. So we have to go in with value, and we have to be very clear that that value is that you get a triple ROI in the arts. You get an economic ROI, you get a social ROI, and you get a cultural ROI. And there's a case to be made for how critical the cultural and social ROI is right now in the current world we live in. So if we can articulate our case well enough, as long as you lead with value and not with need, the door is open. So that's the number one, like Marlene would say. Number two, I don't know if I got a number two though. You're good at number 1, 2, 3. Okay. But so one of the things BASA's done, I'm fairly new to BASA, and I sat and thought, the way business thinks, we've got to change the narrative. They're not going to cross over into our world. We've got to go visit them in theirs. We've got to think cross-sectorally. There's so much money in the innovation space alone that we could be. You guys could all be applying at the CSIR and Science and Innovation and other departments if you could articulate our work, in those spaces, right? So one of the things that we are launching fairly soon is we've gone to one of the leading business schools, and we're going to bring out a creative business index every second year that speaks the business language of mapping the trends of capital flow in the arts and the returns. We do have the SACO work, which is amazing, the cultural statistics and the mapping studies that tell us the size of the sector and how many jobs and all of that. But we've got to do a more market-facing report out of that, and we're actually going to be working with SACO on ours. So we've got to start positioning ourselves correctly in the business space. And then I wanted to just add to something Marlene said, that we must never think that money is going to solve our problem. Funding alone is not going to solve our problem. We have an ecosystem problem or problems in the ecosystem, and that's normal. Any industry, any space has that. But we need to have the conversations to say, yes, it's about funding, but it's also about normalizing access. It's also about, if we need infrastructure, if we're gonna say as a sector, Mr. President, we want to be at that investment summit that you have every year where the billions come. Do we have a 100 billion project we can pitch? And what is that? Is it infrastructure at a national level? What kind? Is it, what facilitates market access for us? So I'm excited because we are having these conversations now. And we can complain about, what's happening with the NAC and all kinds of other things. The truth is, it's also a wake-up call that we can solve a lot of these things just with a few of us in the space getting together and having the conversation and working across silos. So I think that ecosystem mapping, looking at what's the real challenge, what would unlock. I listen to Marlene now and you about touring productions. Cornelia's got this incredible FEC program, and it's about creating market access. That's speaking business language. I'm already thinking, who can I find? Because that's an investment opportunity for somebody. That's not funding, grant funding. Can we have that conversation? Can we think at scale? Can we unblock some of these ecosystem things? But then also that you need to think right down to the child in Mitchell's Plain or Easterus or wherever that needs transport money to get to. So let's design for what we need, but let's not get bogged down in the smallness of the challenge, and really start thinking, position us, lead with value, because we bring it, we have it.
Let's talk about the festival space, shall we, Cornelia? How did we see the transition, I suppose, to where certainly the majority of the festivals, and not all of them, are actually supported by huge, often multinational companies. So there's a lot of business money that is supporting the festivals that we're seeing across the country.
I would actually say it's apart from one or two festivals who have received government funding in the past, but that's also changed. It's mostly private funding that has been supporting the festivals. There is a perception that the national festivals get state funding. I would say Woordfeest is now our biggest festival in terms of size. They get zero government funding, so that's all private funding. But the reality around that is then your festival director, who's also your artistic director, because it's often a cost-saving thing, they then have to be in charge of finding sponsors and donors, and they spend a tremendous amount of time and energy of what should be going towards your artists into managing your sponsors and keeping them happy. And look, I understand that's the nature of the beast, and obviously they also enjoy it. It's not just painful to them. But you have to spend a lot of money on having a sponsors venue, giving them free tickets, making sure that there's hospitality for them. And I see it with our festival CEOs. Festival week is so stressful for them because they have to manage these sponsors instead of focusing on the artists. So it's just a reframing of that and saying that when you give money to the arts, don't expect anything back, because you're getting it back as there's a societal good, there's a bigger impact that you as a company are benefiting from in any case. So insisting on 100 tickets for, I don't even know who's cool anymore, but I don't know, whoever I know in one environment, I know it's early B. I know Dr. Victor is huge at the Car. Everybody wants to be a Dr. Victor. So you have to give 100 tickets to a sponsor. That's not helpful.
Marlene?
Africa, I just want to say one thing, is that, and I don't say everybody must do it, it was a solution because we don't get arts funding. We decided deliberately to do commercial stuff that you pay, if you can pay, and then from that money to be able to do development work and also to do work that is of utmost importance. If we don't have that commercial that comes through our doors, because up till today, we had 500,000 people through our doors. But we also need to say to ourselves, let's look at why are we not seen as professionals? And that's my biggest thing that I'm sitting with. I look at it and I think people have studied. They went to drama schools. They studied music for so long. If you're a violinist, you start when you're 3 years old, and then you go through so many things to be able to land, whether you're a jazz person or that, and you are not being seen as a professional. You need to compete with people, but and I've got no, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying this so that I can get my point over. You need to compete also with people with idols. And you are a professional that have studied. These are two things which is of utmost importance that I want to say. The last thing I want to say is that with the auditors, because this is my gripe thing, man, no? Is that if you apply for any specific funding, when it's government or what, do you know that the percentage of your funding must go to an auditor or an accountant to make you compliant? And that is the sadness of it all. Because $1 million then from if you get 2 million, $1 million are being spent. They are come to Africa, then it goes to them. Yeah? They feel nothing for you. But that money could have gone into you for seed money. Because as artists, you need seed money in order to develop your product. And now I am going to brag a little bit. We have an innovation lounge, a little theatre that we've started. Because what we've realized, if you are not connected to a festival or to any production, where are you going to test your production? Anywhere. And because you only get space for rehearsal space if you have a production on stage. And we've decided, no ways. There's the Innovation Lounge, and let me tell you, we've put it on our website. Sometimes artists, you're your own enemy. You don't phone in. You don't ask for the space. It is free, but we can't do it for you. You need to approach us, and we're scheduling you. I leave it up to you. Now you can go and criticize us. We're open.
I'm not going to be defending the honor of auditors, but please note that they would have studied for 7 years and sat through board exams, and they would have had years of experience before coming here. If they're charging you R1 million for compliance, that's a different conversation altogether. All right.
You might need new auditors.
Can we get the microphone to the audience? I'm going to take Zach first. William, I'd like you to also just reflect on what processes you guys go through in provincial government in deciding what to support, and then we'll open it up for questions. Yeah. Is Charles here? Where is Charles? The 65-year-old man today. Charles, you'll go third then to talk about the Mzansi golden economy and did they not warn you about this? I'm sorry, I have you on my notes. Zach, we'll go with you first.
Thank you. If you don't know by now, I am the chairperson of Artscape, and I just want to, with all the questions that were asked earlier on and elaborated on, I used to be a member of the NAC as well, and knowing what happens at NAC on a higher level and what is happening on the bottom level, which is probably the most important part, is because that is exactly what I was fighting for at the NAC, and that is for artists, and that is how artists struggle just to get their program presented to the stage. Now, to present that to the stage is also difficult because they don't have the money to present a proper business plan, and they don't have the means of getting there. So the emerging artists is what I was focusing on, and I mentioned this at an NAC meeting, saying we need to focus on emerging artists. We need to provide funding for them to create business plans and to present that plan to a stage like Artscape. Now, in that, there's also high-level priorities, which are Western Cape is seen as a privileged community. So in that, the funding was less for the Western Cape. So we need to fix that problem as well on an NSC level by saying everybody that applies must get mentorship in terms of getting their product ready through the financial auditing process and getting that process done, because according to the NAC, the first level of application is for a company older than 1 year. So that's already difficult for an emerging artist. They don't even get to the 1 year stage because it's registration with SARS. It's getting a tax clearance certificate. Then they need to register with an auditing firm and a legal firm to get their company registered, because they have to have directorship, they have to get all of that in place, and that costs money. And they don't have the money to get to that point. So I raised this at NAC level, and they said they need to change their policy, which is to allow 1 year old companies, less than 1 year old companies, to be helped. Now that was in the process of being changed. And all of this, I was representing the Western Cape. And I said, most artists that approach me, which is not supposed to be so, but I get the feedback directly from artists, and they say, all they need is 30,000 Rand to get to the stage. And in that, they can become sustainable. So this is what we're talking about here, and that is why I was interested to come here, and I still don't know why the minister dissolved the NAC. For whatever reason, I still need to get that proper answer. But at the end of the day, the NAC they had their high-level issues, and we have low-level issues with artists. So I said it's important that we bring the two together and help emerging artists to get to the stage. And that is what I'm trying to say to you, that high-level approach and the low-level approach needs to meet each other.
Cornelia, I know you want to respond to that, yeah?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I can give you an answer about why I think the minister dissolved the council. So we'll have to wait and see who he appoints, and I think the answer will lie in that. Look, I think a simple solution for assisting emerging artists could be to say you have intermediary bodies that you give funding to. So you give them R1 million, your emerging artists then apply through that. They work with that intermediary body, and then they help them to administer and audit the funding. And so it's really a simple solution. Instead of saying you have 5,000 individual artists or companies applying to the same panel for the same pool of money, you just do a simple restructuring of saying, if you've been in the industry for less than a year, this is the channel that you need to follow in order to apply for funding. That intermediary company then has their own auditors, their own board of directors. It's a very simple solution, actually.
And I imagine because it's an intermediary company, the cost then of the auditors, the cost of compliance is then shared by however many projects are being granted funding.
Yes.
All right. William, what are your, I suppose, challenges from a provincial government point of view, and how do you decide Project A will get funding over Project Z?
Okay, thank you, and a big thank you to Artscape for organizing this. I think this is a very important, discussion that we never get to have, as a sector, because most artists they always, complain about, not having platform where they can share this, where they can exchange ideas, with funders. So I'm glad today that Artscape has done this, and a very big thank you, Marlene and Artscape. Please give them a big hand. Yes, I'm William Asemola from the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport in the Arts and Culture Directorate. I'm not alone, I'm with my colleague, I think she's here, Snentlantla. I think many of you guys would have dealt with her with the funding applications. The challenges that we face as a province is that we are responsible for the entire province, and our budget does not really increase that much. We've got 6 districts in the Western Cape, and we have to service all those districts in terms of supporting arts in those communities. We support anything from grassroots to professional. And our pace, unfortunately, is not increasing, So, and we try our best to accommodate districts in far-flung districts such as your Central Karoo, West Coast, deep garden route. You know, we've realized over the years that majority of our funding was remaining here in the Cape Metro. And I think rightly so, because the population, you know, of the Cape Metro is big. I think today it's at 5.15 million, you know, and the total population of the Western Cape is 7.5, you know, million. So we've been on a drive to go to those far-flung areas, such as your Central Karoo, places like Merveville, Vredendal, you know, Plettenberg Bay, you know, Oudtshoorn and so forth, because we're realizing over the years that we're not getting applications from those areas, you know, and as a provincial department, we get questions all the time from the provincial parliament that why are you not funding organization X from Central Karoo or from Vredendal or from Garden Route. So the challenges that we face is that our budget is not increasing, not for lack of trying from our senior management, our HOD, and our MECs to, you know, lobby Treasury to say we need more. But we continually have to make a case for the arts to Treasury, you know, and unfortunately that is not easy, because you're dealing with bean counters. You know, people who, they're just looking at numbers, you know, they're looking at the impact and so forth. And for us as a department, we see the work that arts organizations, individuals and companies are doing as an extension of our work as a department, you know, because our department is there to ensure that in each and every community there's arts and culture happening. Be it a community arts center, a dance school, or music organization, and so forth. That is our work. When such is not happening, we have an increase in crime, we have an increase in drug abuse, teenage pregnancy, and so forth. So that is where our department is operating from. We have a huge ask, but the budget is small. Thanks.
And I imagine, Beth, then whatever conversation we need to be having with the private sector, we probably need to have with Treasury regarding changing the matrix a little bit that they measure against as far as why they should give more money to arts and culture.
Yeah, I mean, it's again leading with value and not with need. We probably create more jobs. Do you know that we have as many jobs as the agricultural sector? We're on par. But there's no industrial master plan for our sector. There's little pieces of it. It's not driven with the same sort of support and intensity as other sectors. And agriculture is as seasonal as the arts sector is. It's also a gig type of thing. But we are the ones who have to actually start making that case. And we need to hold our public officials to account to say, take us seriously. We are professionals. We are contributing massively economically. In terms of job creation, we are one of the sectors that is the solution to the youth unemployment problem in South Africa. If you look at digital creative skills right now, we could simply single-handedly, just in the digital skills sector, be the business process outsourcing center for digital skills for the world, where all animation, gaming, all these things are shipped to our shores. It's all digital files. But that means developing skills pipelines, investing in skills, thinking long-term, creating things at scale. So I think that the shift from, you know, the little arts and culture people, the song and dance people, with some donor funding in the corner, we've got to change that narrative to, excuse me, Treasury, if you were to just add a couple of billion, this is what it would mean in terms of your priorities, which are jobs and everything else.
And
so
if you talk to Google about bursaries in South Africa, mention the arts and don't just hand out bursaries for other sectors.
I think also it's that it's the narrative. 4% this sector contributes to the GDP. So we need to speak now the language of economy. We need to ensure that we're at that table. I make sure, Treasury, you must hear our voice. Why are we only invited to certain things like little things here? No, we want to be in that economy table. We want to be at that economy conference. We want to be where it matters when we talk about the investments that needs to happen, and not just signing bilaterals. Okay? Boss, you're going to fire me, but I must say it. It's a truthful thing that we're now going to say. Bilaterals with other countries all the time. But we on the ground doesn't even know what that bilaterals entails. So is it officials only traveling all over the world in order for us to able to implement that bilaterals, to get that money into the sector? These are the hardcore things, unfortunately, that we need to start to ask.
Yeah. Charles, you would have been given the microphone. Do you have anything to say about the Mzansi golden economy? Because if you don't, I'm happy to take the microphone to somebody else.
Marlene, good morning. Charles Panjatwa, Artistic Coordinator of Artscape, retired, maybe. Yeah. So I was an adjudicator there.
Yeah.
I was not working for Mzansi Golden Economy.
Just to be clear.
Yes. So you remember during Minister NATi Chair, may so rest in peace, there were artists that were adjudicators, Mufukate and all that stuff. So what they were doing, they were giving funds to their families, friends, and you find out one person's got about 3, 4, 5 companies. And then, hence it was changed. So during Zizi Godwa, they decided to have the representative from different arts councils. So hence Marlene asked me to go there to represent Artscape, so that if I give somebody money, end of the day, she must account. So I was there knowing that Marlene is here, right? And I had to report each and every time. So what happens there is that, what I've noticed is that Western Cape had less than 100 organizations that have applied.
Out of a total of how many, out of interest?
Out of?
A total of how many? Is it out of 2,000 applications, out of about 4,000
yeah.
applications?
And you find out Gauteng, it's got thousands. Bloemfontein, Durban. And the challenge was that the majority of the Cape Town organization, they were applying to do programs here around the town and all that stuff. Very few that wants to do something at the West Coast and all that stuff, and that was the problem. And another challenge, the organizations, when they're doing their funding, application, they, for instance, when they're doing budget, they don't break it. Now, let's say if Elvis is doing a product, he's going to say 250,000 for artists, 200 and certain amount for community artists. So immediately, when the funding is the applications like that, they throw it away, because you've got to specify that you're going to have 20 choirs, each choir is going to get so much.
Okay.
And then on top of that, if you've told them exactly who you are and what you are doing, that must talk to the budget as well. And some groups are doing a production, there's no stage manager, there's no artistic person and all that stuff, immediately they're going to throw it out, So I know they'll say, no, they don't like Cape Town. No, they've got a lot of programs, and some of them are doing cut and paste. You find out this proposal was handed to Arts and to NAC, and they take exactly the same to Mzansi Golden Economy. Remember, Mzansi Golden Economy, it's strictly for job creation, and NAC, it's development and all that stuff. Immediately on the document, you said, we are going to do auditions, you're going to do workshops, they're going to throw it away. They said, that must go to NAC. So I've noticed that. And sometimes, if you do this cut and paste, you forget to change the date somewhere, somehow. You've got 2020, 2000, and then it's 2026. That 2000 is going to appear somewhere around. They take it and throw it away.
Yeah, no,
and lastly, there are groups that are sort of like doing these traveling ventures. In order to do that, you must be invited. They are going to create something, and then you see the letterhead, hey, this is cut and paste. Immediately when the covering letter is wrong, they're going to throw it away.
Yeah.
It's not to say they don't like Cape Town, it's because there were a lot of tiny little problems from our artists. I know inside here, I saw, okay, I was not doing Cape Town, and I'm not doing choral music or music. I'll do maybe Africa Day and all that stuff. But I happened to notice our artists around Cape Town, majority of their proposals were wrong. They've got big amounts, and sometimes they talk about professional artists, forgetting the local artist. And then they said it's where they chow the money. They put big amounts without being specific exactly.
About what they're going to
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm hearing from that is that perhaps one of the masterclasses has to be around the Mzansi golden economy. What needs to be considered when you are applying? These are the common mistakes that you are making, and this is how you can actually get over it. Or
Now that I'm not there, I can assist.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Charles. Thanks a lot.
Can I just ask a quick question? And sorry, Charles, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I know you don't speak on behalf of the fund, but then my question becomes, and I always get roped in for recommendation letters for NGE and for NAS, for everything. So I'm part of many applications. And I know the feedback sometimes is there was not a signature on this document, there wasn't a letterhead on that document. Fair enough. If those application requirements are really clear, then people have to adhere to that. I don't have a problem with that in principle. But I know of many really good applications, especially coming from the festivals. Professional, linked to proper projects, linked to actual job creation, linked to sustainable endeavours, who get zero funding. Then you go and look at the list of successful candidates and you start Googling those companies, because that's our fun that we have every time the list of successful candidates come out. We start looking at the companies. Some of them have no traceable evidence of being in existence, and they are successful. So then I really have to ask the question, I have no problem with the fact that people need to do better applications, yes. But there seems to be a huge discrepancy between the proper applications and the ones that do get funding for really strange projects. That I have to say, some of those names, they probably get funding for being so creative, actually.
All right, we'll take that as a comment and sort of defer it to the Mzansi golden economy. Okay, okay, hold on. I'll give you 30 seconds, Charles.
Sometimes what you notice there, you find similar proposal. There's one person who was writing for the majority of organization, and then you read this one, okay, and then when you go to another one, you say, man, there's something here, and then you go to that one, the format and everything is exactly the same. They throw that away. Yeah, so...
All right, so it does go down to the quality of the application, but there is Cornelia's question around properly put together applications that do not get funding. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Hi there. For those who don't know me, my name is Clint White. I am an ex-Artscape employee. I come from the creative arts industry for many years. I come from the global advocacy space as well. I'm also the founder of the Cape Flats Arts and Culture Festival. With our institution, we are a registered MPC. We now have PBO status. We work quite closely with many institutions across Cape Town and across the Cape Flats with the intention to change how the Cape Flats is represented and how we as a society can contribute effectively and positively to all the different economies that exist, right? Through the work, we drive cultural awareness and pride for the Cape Flats, and we want to be represented within our city. The reason why I mention this is because being an artist myself, there are a lot of challenges that we as artists face. As an artist practitioner, us as a business face tremendous funding challenges. However, it is not impossible for us to create. What is lacking in the art industry, and I'm talking about whether it be the traditional arts, but also the creative arts industries in terms of visual arts, is innovation. There are ways, and we as an institution have proven this, there are ways to merge private and public sectors collectively. People in power are not willing to open themselves up to that type of innovation. Us as an institution, I'll give you an example. We approached the Western Cape Provincial Government last year to apply for funding. But we actually told them we don't want to apply for funding. Why? It was very, very strange because the minister was like, why are you not applying for funding? This is quite interesting. He then tells us that there were many, many proposals of the same, which is what Charles was saying. We as an institution told the Western Cape government, it's fine, we don't need your funding. It doesn't cover the magnitude of the programs in terms of cost, because we are trying to create a professional body for the Cape Flats in that sense, right? And we told them, please just watch, just watch. We are going to do things very differently. We came back to William then this year. We did everything and then some in terms of our programmatic activities with zero funding. We are endorsed by Global Citizen. We are endorsed by the Western Cape Provincial Government. We are in existence for less than a year operationally in terms of us actually launching. The campaign today is worth 3.6 million rand just as the Cape Flats Arts and Culture Festival. We did approach Artscape 2 years ago, before we even launched, to open up Artscape as a space for our visual artists to actually come in and say, hey, we have art, can we show you what we are made of? Can we show you what the art is within our city? I'm still waiting for a response, right? It is very difficult to try and be experienced, be qualified, have a very innovative idea, approach, make all these connections happen, and then be gate-kept at the place that is supposed to be the home for arts. It is difficult. I'm saying this again, there are opportunities for public and private partnership to actually work together. BASA is a challenge because I was part of their program as well. BASA's additional requirement is that you have to have 5,000 rand from your benefactor in order to apply for a program. That is
But you
insane.
changed that, right? I've changed that. Yeah.
Thank you, thank
Agreed.
you, thank
It's
you.
very bad,
Amazing.
yes.
That's a step in the right direction. But what I'm saying is alluding to what everybody is saying here. Finances are difficult. I have to have 5,000 rand for an auditor who is just going to look at my books when I have nothing in my bank account, yet I'm driving change where it is needed most. It is very difficult. Please do your best to drive innovation. We are the ones sitting with the ideas. We are the ones saying, hey, Artscape, open up access here. We can do things differently. You mentioned, Marlene, that 1,000 school kids came here every week.
I'm gonna, because I have a room full of people and hands going up. So
Thank you.
I need for Beth to respond,
Thank
and I
you
need
so
for
much.
Marlene to respond.
Please make arts accessible for us. We are bleeding. We are tired of being in survival mode. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Clint, right? I want to just quickly build on a point that Clint is making. And we do need innovation. And so, first of all, BASA has done away, we've got a free creative membership tier now. We're launching our new platform in July. We want all creatives to join so that you've got access to, we've got funding directories, toolkits if you're putting sponsorship proposals together for corporates. Canva's designed a special creative toolkit for creatives. Amazon's e-commerce university. You've got access to a bunch of stuff, right? So watch out for that. Just a little BASA plug here while I've got the mic. But I repositioned our supporting grants program to take it away from just this once-off events-based thing, that's sponsorship-based. And we put it out and said, we'll give you some money, build a prototype. It must be an arts and business partnership. And I want to quickly tell you what innovation happened. A nature reserve partnered with, well, it's the other way around actually. The artists, the augmented reality artists, someone from the film industry, partnered with a nature reserve. And they've done a whole trail through the nature reserve with augmented reality. You know, you scan the code and the monkey pops out the tree, and it's marvelous. It's so successful, they don't need funding anymore. There's now 3 or 4 parks who'll come and say, we want that. They've now got market access. A property company partnered with a visual arts company, and they gave them all their properties that are not yet sold to use as gallery spaces for visual artists who don't have access. Okay. They're now paying them a bit of a fee to do the maintenance of those buildings. You know, so there's so much innovation that can happen when we think outside of the paradigm, and you see sustainability. And at the same time, there's now a model that can be put in front of an investor, put in front of another funder. So I love what you guys are doing. Keep doing it. And I know it's really hard. I've come from building arts organizations on the ground. I know how rough it is. We know what it is to have the lights off and, you know, not be able to pay people. But yeah, we've got to find a way that someone like him has access.
Yeah.
And then figure out what that access really means. Because Marlene has limitations. She's not a gallery, she's a theatre. Where
And
does
yet
that
she's
live?
got lots of walls that are
She does.
available.
To I think Africa is the chairperson of the of the City Ballet, who's an associated company, and also the vice chairperson of the Opera, who is also an associated company. And I think we can add, the reason why I'm saying this is that, and I'm so happy, Clint, that you say that. This is the role of civil society to keep us accountable. I think that's number one. Secondly, we are working in silos, for instance. There is Iziko that has curators, and we should work together as government entities to look at, for instance, I see Dr. Balachu is here, that did a visual arts program also here at Artscape. I think it's important that today's session is that we listen and we look at what other opportunities can we create in this space. And I think this is the role that that this masterclass is about, so that we don't respond by saying, I'm not going to respond to Clint by saying, Clint, this is supposed to do X, Y. No, it's that this is your real struggle that you have. You have a good product. How do we get visual artists in this building? And as you say, Africa, we have walls as per se, but also bring in the other partner who must do this, Iziko, and see how do we assist this credible. But what I'm saying, with what you are currently doing, how do we assist you? It is not necessarily money that you need. You need access and that people see your work. That is it.
Thank you.
I think they also need money.
This is what I'm going to do.
But
I'm
also
actually going to
money.
go to the floor so that I can, because we've got literally 54 minutes left and I want to go through as many questions as possible. So if you can ask yours as quickly and ask it of one person, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm not going to give you the same issue. And I see a room full of people. I was actually going to do that, so we're not going to have time. So I'm not going to say everything I came to say. There's big issues in the arts, we all know. I'm going to do two things only. Number one, I just want to Marlene also reiterate what he said. I've been struggling for years to do one thing at the Artscape. The issue is not whether they say yes or no. The issue is that they don't even respond. And that's the problem. So if they had sent an email to say X, Y, Z or whatever, we can resolve it or whatever, and that's the issue. So I want to find out who I can speak to do something here, and especially with a free space. Secondly, I want to say thank you to William. We don't really know each other. I went there on a rent to the department, and they are doing phenomenal work. They sponsored one of our festival projects last year. We were able to employ 79 people and more, and we've done extremely well. But it's because they looked at us. So I don't think there's sort of big funding issues, because you cannot only rely on sort of grants and things like that. And I've never had the opportunity to say to William, thank you. So I'll say, yeah, thank you. Phenomenal work.
You never told us your name.
Oh, okay. People's not worried about who I am, man. But anyway, my name is Brylen, so it's B-R-I-L-Y-N. Like when you make a braai and you have, you invite a lin. The project is called the Blue Downs Family Fest. I'm also working on a solution for the arts and culture, which is phenomenal. It's like an Uber for artists. You see what Uber did? That's what we must do in arts and culture, and it answers all your questions. Simple.
Thank you very much. All right, Molondot.
I like the confidence.
Hi everybody, my name is Jonah.
I know, man. We're gonna try and go to everybody. Guys, this is a hot topic. We need to be out of here by 12. We're not gonna get to everybody, but I'm gonna try and go to everybody, I promise. So I know what I'm doing.
Hi everybody. Hi everybody. So this morning I woke up to a surprise to not being compliant. So surprise to me as I was applying for the National Heritage Council funding that is due on Monday. So, you know, these are the types of things we are experiencing, but it leads me directly to your statement earlier, Cornelia, around we need like this one agency that manages us and, you know, we apply for individuals. That doesn't work, because the voices that are representing the artists at that layer are not necessarily the people that look like me or sound like me, and so their view is not like mine. Their understanding of what a food breakdown is versus transport is not the same. And so we have the added pressure of explaining ourselves or justifying things that are like natural in our community. First point. Then the second is, not only are we limited in the access capacity, we also are now having to ask for representation at every occasion. Just give me a second, let me just finish this, Africa. So when it is a board, when it is a functional body, anything, we have to ask who is there on that platform that is not here for 30 years, that hasn't been in the space for 30 years, that doesn't have a network of friends that they are working with, that we can have a challenge or conversation with that is actually going to mean, you know, future. Thank you again to William and his team, because we have to mention this, that they are open to those conversations, but we are struggling everywhere else. And we as community people on the ground have to fund one another and give each other something, because we need to keep the you know, like our heads above water. So I struggle listening to this conversation from the back here, and I'm saying like, are y'all on the ground? Do y'all see what we are seeing? We are not seeing ourselves. And so for this 38% of this 5 million people that come from the community that I come from, 38%, we are struggling there, and we are being told, but your compliance isn't up to date.
Thank you. Cornelia, do you want to perhaps take
Yes,
take that on?
absolutely. Well, thank you for the feedback. When I say that there needs to be a body or an organization or a structure or an intermediary level where there can be support, infrastructure, I definitely do mean that it has to be representative. It needs to be a solution to that issue of we are not feeling heard, people do not understand our product or our project or our performance or our community, that needs to be a representative structure. I mean, that for me is an absolute given.
Thank you. My name is Stephen. I worked previously in national government. I now run a science centre, actually. Some useful benchmarking to be done. But just one or two important interventions, I think. Number one, if you're receiving 35,000 Rand, you should not be required to do any audit. The only report mechanism is the provincial rep on the NAC must go and check the evidence of you doing something. It's like a social grant. You know, a social grant, you don't have to do a tax return. This is a social grant to an artist. Okay, so that's number one. So there's got to be a set amount of money of the number of grants that are 35,000 Rand that go directly to artists, and pray to God that they all learn to be virtuous and good, and they know they won't get funding another year if they don't deliver something. Number one. Number two, so there's 4 billion Rand in the departmental budget. I try to do an estimation of how much of that money enters the pocket of an artist. Now, the danger with our creative economy model, we say 4.2% of jobs. Those jobs are not artists as we know them. They are not, they're not artists. When we did the cultural industries growth strategy, the purpose of that was to focus on economically viable sectors. We never looked at the not-for-profit sector. We were trying to understand, and that economic sector is a completely different ballgame. So let's talk about artists as we know them, as we see them in our communities. My estimation of that 4 billion Rand, 400 million maybe goes to the arts. Of that 400 million, think about it. You've got all of these middlemen. You've got festival organizers. They must all be there. You've got the theatres. How much gets into the pocket of artists? Maybe 100 million of the 4 billion. Go and do the research. Go do the research. So that Department of Arts, Culture, Heritage, the amount of time that the minister needs to attend to artists is fractional, and nothing that gets spent would come up as an audit issue for Treasury. It's below the threshold. The entire budget of the department is below the threshold of an audit inquiry. So we've got to find
The model, number one, make sure people understand the facts. And number two, get that money into artists' pockets at the bottom end. Number three, government buildings. We occupy a government building. Who do we pay our rent to? We pay our rent to the Cape of Good Hope Trust. What do they do with with our money? They help people who've just been flooded in Cape Town. There's a virtuous circle. So provide government buildings for artist organizations. You must pay some rent, but your rent goes back to benefit your sector. So that's some of my experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Clive Barrows. I've been in the arts sector since the 70s, a progeny of Yvonne Bryceland and Brian Asprey. As a young teenager, went into the Space Theatre, eventually over the years worked with the Community Arts Project, even opened up and did the first community festival ever at the Baxter Theatre in the late 80s. And then, a lot of people are sitting around here would know me. They've seen the work I've done. I then went into government, basically handpicked, became a victim of nepotism in government and corruption, had to flee government, and then I was challenged about a year ago by a friend of mine who serves on the UN Commission on Gender and said, Clive, we've seen your work. We saw Jesus Christ Superstar. You were the first to get the rights for it in Africa. We've been a witness to what you've done. Is there any way you can create a critical narrative based on the stats we have around these particular issues prevailing in South Africa? I then decided, I was busy with my book, pushed that aside, and started to create a narrative, but put together a strategic plan. And what that gentleman says is quite correct. We throw around terminology such as impact. We throw around community involvement. We throw around job creation. We throw around terminology that in essence means nothing, because the bulk of funds are not going for job creation. Artists out there, one of my objectives when I put this narrative together, there's my choreographer here, I've got a multimedia designer here who comes out of the community. She's brilliant. But job opportunities do not prevail for these people. Right. And 90% of applications that are submitted often by companies who charge people money, a fortune, to submit those applications to get it through and successful. So the Mzansi Golden Economy applications, I've been approached by people, offered, we would get your strat plan through, pay us 100,000 Rand, and you'll get it through because we've got all the contacts. NAC, the same thing happened. We have a production that I know is critical theatre for this country. In terms of its impact, it's going to be superb. It's original. I've got a magnificent team of musical composers together. People from Richard Caesar along, musical arrangements are done for the show. I've got a multimedia design in place for the production that is nothing less than superb. The issue I have is I have artists who are struggling. I chose to cast people, not people that I worked with professionally over the years, but to create opportunity for unemployed artists in this field. Lynn, here I've worked with previously as well. So I cast people with great potential. They came from Ocean View, they came from the townships. They're brilliant, but they need to be sustained. And then you have to approach your friends. Shirley's then. Shirley, please help me out. Marcel Golding, please help me out. Dr. Victor Ritchie, please, we need to feed these young, talented people. They are brilliant, they're world class. But we cannot get funding from the sectors out there. NAC is in a total mess. Mzansi, there's so much corruption taking place that people who are at the grassroots level doing all the work cannot access resources. And it takes people now, I'm glad that Marlene mentioned the innovation area, because I think that space should be made available for original productions, for people work like him, in terms of the work he does in the community, that space should be available for us. We should be able to invite all of you, come and see this piece of work. It's a original masterpiece, I'm going to tell you it is. It's world-class standards. And the work being done out there by the people need to come into a space like Artscape. Artscape mustn't only be seen by the community for the Chicagos it puts on or the pretty women. We've got original product on our hands. Let Artscape be the facilitator for it.
Thank you very much. Marlene, I'm going to give you a chance to respond to some of the comments that have been made right now.
I think it's brilliant comments, because this is not going to end here today. I think it's things that we need to take forward. Number one is that we have spoken to various funders as well to open up their particular hearts and capacity to come once a month so that we can send it from this particular meeting, so that you can know once a month an organization, a funding organization will be here so that you can interact, because that is the practical level that we would like to that it happens here. Secondly also is that the Innovation Lounge has been opened. It's part of our 55, like you said, sir. In order for us to look at, you can go on our website. It is there. It's for you just to say, when would you like to have it, in order to schedule it. And those are the kind of things that I also get from this. It is not just an Artscape challenge. I just want to say, it's a systemic challenge that we currently have. But we feel it's important that we not just end today with this discussion. It's the first of many that we need to have.
All right. Cornelia, I want some thoughts and reflections as well from you. What I'm hearing is that there is an incredible great demand for, one, funding, two, space, that certainly people in the communities on the ground are feeling frustrated in being able to access.
Look, that's obviously understandable. I mean, I work in the funding space, so I work for a donor. So we give funding to artists and productions and to festivals. So I also have a perspective on what it looks like when artists apply to you for funding. And one of the challenges that we sit with, and I don't want to throw this back to the artists and say, you're doing it wrong, but it is a real challenge that we sit with. There needs to be more planning built into these application systems. When an artist approaches me, and this happens all the time, say, I've been selected for the National Arts Festival, we're leaving in a month, we've been rehearsing, we need money, can you help us out? That's a challenge. My budget was already approved in October the previous year. Now, how do we find that middle ground between artists who don't know whether they've been accepted for something, who don't know whether they have the seed funding in place in order to start going further with the project? So I do understand that challenge. I think if we keep these conversations hyper-localized around people who sit in the audience and say, this is my challenge, then I think we need to remove ourselves a little bit from that sort of discussion, because I feel the frustration, I experience it as well. I know where it's coming from. But we actually need to start taking these conversations into what is the long-term solution here. So there are several sort of, what do you call it when you look from above?
Bird's eye view?
A bird's eye view, but there's sort of there's a meta perspective that we need here. I don't think that's the right word. But we need to start having the discussion about, so we fight the minister all the time. That's been an ongoing narrative. We're all tired of that narrative. How do we shift that? How do we speak about what the funding framework for the arts looks like? Luckily, no one here has touched on sport today, because we're all so tired of that conversation. And it keeps us locked into this thing that we're against sport. It doesn't help us to have that discussion. But it is an issue. So I would love for SACO to start bringing out stats that says this is the jobs that creative industries are creating, not just creative industries and sport. Because when we use those stats, they tell us, but you're including sport. When we speak about our contribution to the GDP, that 4% includes sport. So we have to get our data in order to be able to say these are the real jobs that we create. What do we mean when we speak about a job? And I take your point. When we say we are creating jobs in the sector, does it mean a once-off performance for an artist that's getting 3,000 Rand and that's the income for the year? We don't even touch on the discussion about a basic income grant for the arts. I think that would be a fantastic solution. But then our fallback as South Africans is to say, no, but that will be corrupt. I mean, that's so sad that that's become our narrative. But we really, really need can't think of the word that I'm trying to use now, but we need a systemic view, I suppose. A systemic view of where do we want to be in 5 years from now? Because we're just going to complain about a minister who's going to be a different person, but it's going to have the same issues. We're going to have the same discussion about we want access to spaces. And I do understand Marlene's challenge, because if you go to theatres in other provinces, you cannot even access the building physically. So there's also that real challenge. If a building is not sustained and maintained, it becomes unusable within a year or 2 years. Go to Packhoffs in Bloemfontein, none of the lifts work there. So you cannot stage a production because you can't take your set into the building. So that's a real challenge. So salaries and maintenance, obviously within reason is important. But we've also got to have that systemic view of how do you keep things in place in order for artists to have something to want access to. But we keep having these conversations, and I know artists are really, really suffering. I know this. So, but we can't solve it by having a discussion about one production company, one community at a time. It's got to be a different discussion.
No, fair enough. Before I come to those two hands in front there, let me pose a question on behalf of Jabba, who is of hard of hearing and is using the live caption on his iPad in order to follow the conversation due to his deafness. He has two questions. He says, we are now in 2026 and the South African Sign Language is the 12th official language in South Africa. How can this be included and promoted for deaf and hard of hearing artists in the Cape Flats? Also, would it be possible for Artscape to explore installing live caption technology during events and discussions to make them more inclusive when spoken communication is used? That's the first question. The second, how can deaf and hard of hearing people be more actively included in these discussions and engagements in the future? Marlene?
Yes, most definitely. Thank you, Jabbar. Most important is that for our building, we have a loop system, which Jabbar was part of when we have installed it for the hard of hearing, and also when you are having a hearing aid in order to cut out the white noise, and also for you as a person with impairment, hearing impairment, to be part of a musical and to be part of the specific building. I can only talk for Artscape. I can't talk for anybody else. The second aspect also is that I can, Africa, good for our associated company, the opera. We had the school, the Dominican school here for the access to the opera, and we had the captions as well, which is part of the building. And I think Jabbar is posing the questions so that we can just say that we are making this building fully accessible, because we're more than a ramp. I just want to be very clear. We're more than a ramp. If you were here last week, when we had the masterclass on the building, and I'm not going to give the masterclass now, we're going to do it again, because it was very successful in how we was telling the story of this is on dry land, for instance, and what we have done. And it's an ongoing journey. I just want to say it's an ongoing journey to make this place accessible, not just for persons in wheelchairs, for the blind, for cerebral palsy, because disability is not a homogeneous group. It cuts across. Then I come to artists with disabilities. That's not even on the agenda. Let me tell you this, because when we come to budgeting for artists with disabilities, you need to have a separate budget. That's the budget for the arts. Then there's a budget that you need to have to look at carers, to look at interpreters, to look at, I call it affirmative budget for artists with disabilities. So we're not even touching here on that yet. And this is a struggle that artists, and I'm so happy that Nikita came all the way from Atlantis, because Nikita needs to have 2 persons to come with her, and she's a brilliant singer. So all that I'm saying here is that it is, as you say, the 2 wonderful panelists that we have that is also working on the ground, they're just not talking, is that it is a systemic challenge that we have. I want to touch lastly on this. If we are not going to get William, I know we need to get the community arts centers up and going. And it must be staffed, and that our artists, and I hate to talk about, an artist is an artist. There is no such thing as a community artist and an artist that performs at Artscape. An artist, let us forget about these terms, man, because it puts you in a stereotyping and it puts you in a box. We talk about artists and creative industry. We need to get that also right. That we're doing that. We are in partnership also with the Joseph Stone, who is a wonderful theatre that is in the community. But it is not to say only if you're from Athlone, you can use that particular. It's for everyone. And when we look at here, as we're saying, the whole model needs to change. This UIF, for instance, we need to talk about that. Let's talk real things. We need to talk about, are you unionized? Who's talking for you? Is it your agent that takes a cut or are you unionized as artists? I leave that with you because I think it's important issues that you need to talk about. Thank you.
I can see it's not your first rodeo. Hi, I'm Tosca. I represent the Coffee Philharmonisch. You're all welcome. It's in August. I just want to start with a thank you for NATi for your help last year and the year before. Always there. Bosa didn't get any money from you. And thank you so much for Western Cape DSAC. You guys gave us funding. It was not a lot. I know you don't have a lot. Your follow-up and check that we didn't use the money for our own pockets was great. And just easy process, and your workshops on how to do it is fantastic. So I really take my hat off to you. Thank you so much. I'm hearing a lot of complaining and moaning, and I feel with you, and it's horrible, and there's money, and we need money. I would just like to ask, how can we help you? Okay, so if you can let me know, I'm not on the mailing list. I've only been doing this 2 years. So if there's a mailing list that I can join, and if you want to go to the president, if you need signatures, how can I get my signature to you? How can we help? That's all I'd like to know.
Festivals is of utmost importance. What is important is that where an artist or a production, you get every single day, every week, that you get money. Because that's what we're talking about, sir. I heard you. There's a model that you came up with. And it's been recorded, and we need to take it further. If we can sustain these festivals, then artists and production, I'm just talking festivals, will have all around, they will have an income. The calendar. Festival organizers must just sit down, and I'm talking also to the jazz festivals. How on earth can you have 2 jazz festivals on the same weekend? I'm telling you now, you're listening to me? Because the jazz artists could have had for another month also. Now they must run in between. We also need to have shed our egos, man. Shed our egos. To look at, firstly, how do we program things properly. I also want to say thank you to the Baxter. The more theatres we have, yes, the more work we're giving to artists. And how we work with each other is that we support each other. The second thing is that if I know that the Shabalala Festival is a wonderful festival, why must we also have a Shabalala Festival? No, it's wrong. We must support the Baxter in that festival, because from that festival again comes to the New Voices again. We have a New Voices program, or the High School Drama Festival. That is, we need to create that particular ecosystem amongst each other. Thank you very much.
Give thanks, Shagar. I'm Natasha Christine Tafari, and I represent Cape Town Underground Hip Hop. thank you to Heal the Hood for terming something ahead of time and understanding that the word is where the healing is about. And if we're going to heal, please allow me my word. Thank you so much. Marlene, I'm one of the people, as they say that get a response, thankfully. Because since then, I've seen your amazing journey from what I thought Artscape to be a snobbish space, you have made accessible to our communities. And I thank you for that. Many times we don't acknowledge the words, works. We say things should be done, and when things are done, we don't look and say, wow, look how far she has come in bringing us here. That's why we're here right now, because you've made that access available to us. And from here on forward, it will go forward because of what you've done. So thank you for that. With regards to what this brother had said, yes, indeed, around me right now, everyone's fridges is full that is within the business of arts, except for the artists. Fridge, some don't even have fridges. And it's amazing how the money that is available then goes into everything that is infrastructure. The last people always that get paid is the artists. What an anomaly, because without the artists, you don't have business, right? So let's start from that point of view. So can we then, as a possibility, come together and audit the art of business and look at everything that we have, think tank, right? And then say, right, can we put regulation in place for the supply chain, because the cost there is crazy, because yes, there's too much spending that's happening there. This minister was talking about putting infrastructures and organizations in place. Cost. That doesn't come to the artists at the end of the day. Those are monthly salaries that's being paid. Those are office, rent, everything else not coming to us. So streamline. Auditing means streamlining your company for effective output, right? So if we are able to regulate that, then maybe we can get somewhere. And think about quantifying then. What we are saying is our ROI, our social, economic is one thing, social and cultural. How do we do that? Within the call centers, they took something called an NPS. It was a thinking. How do I take their opinion and quantify the progress? And they were able to do so by creating an NPS system. So in the same way, we can then, as artists and business people, sit and decide how do we quantify the ROI so that we can tick the boxes and get a number allocated for that. I think that's all I wanted to say. And yes, the beauty of it is, last point is, artists are expected to be business people, but business people aren't necessarily expected to be artists. So maybe we can come together at some point and play along.
Actually, with regards to that audit, where is the work that you did that worked out how much of that 400 million rand actually goes to the artists?
I have it on my laptop, and I have shared it. Would need to be reviewed, but just to make absolutely clear, there's no leakage between sport money and arts and culture. That can't happen. I found when I did the review, I found 100 million rand unspent, okay? Number one, but this is a few years ago. Number two, 500 officials employed by the National Department. In 1 year, 90% of them were studying, okay? So they go into the civil service. 80% of the budget is expensed by 20% of the staff. Most of the money is outsourced to agencies. We should have a work. I always say to people, you've got to learn to read the budget and the annual report. Let's have a session on just going through that annual report and track where the money is.
Beth.
Yes, sorry, I'm planning.
No, fantastic.
Yes.
But can I ask that you connect
Yes,
so
I know
that
Stephen.
we can find some money from the private sector that will help us actually unlock that data so that we can get the answer, because it is
But I want to suggest
absolutely
something.
wrong that a lot of the money is going to officials and not the artists.
I want to suggest something more practical. And Basa would be very happy to help facilitate this, and I think the colleagues on the stage too, that the follow-up to today is an actual working session for a morning or a day, where we're coming as artists with solutions. Because what we've heard here today, I've made notes, because we are in spaces that we can advocate. We are intending fully as a collective to go to the Treasury and Presidency in the spaces that need to be gone to change some of the status quo. So that cannot happen without being, the design must be informed by the actual real practical needs of artists on the ground. So Basa is happy to commit to that we have a follow-up. Marlene, you've got a venue. Imagine.
And that is what we... And, yeah,
so, and
yes.
I mean, I don't know, Cornelia, I'm sure would be happy to participate, but that we can't just have one session and air our gripes and they're real, but not take it into a practical step. And I think that's the first step, and then hopefully we can roll those out in a few different places in the country.
This is a longer discussion, so Marlene, this must be another session that we need to have, but it ties into having a workshop like that. But what is it that gives us actual power to go to the minister or the presidency to say, look, this is the plan that we have. And that is why, and this is a long separate discussion, that is why we really need to unionize. And we are in the Department of Labour has sent out a gazette for artists to say they want to classify us as employees. And I was in a session that Saga organized, and there were like 5 artists who participated. The sector response that was sent after we were given 30 days to comment, 2 organizations, the one was the Festival Forum, the other one was Saga. So that is actually, again, I don't want to throw it out at the artists and say, this is your problem, this is our problem. But if we really want to say, look, we have plans, we have suggestions, we have creative solutions, we've got to say we have collective bargaining power. And if we just sit in rooms like this and say, these are our gripes, it doesn't take us anywhere. So there's also some self-reflection, I think, on the part of our artistic community in terms of how and where you get involved in the sector issues and not just funding discussions.
I've got 20 minutes left. I'm taking 4 questions. I've already identified them. Don't put up your hand.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I'm Geraldine, in collaboration with Man Cave. I'm from Western Province, Clive. Western Province Inclusivity Performing Arts Academy. And please note, inclusivity, right? I find that a lot of times that, because I've worked with these people, I work on the ground as well, in the Cape Flats, Heidelberg, and you guys, everybody knows crime is everywhere. Doesn't matter where you live, it's everywhere. So we're not going to say, oh, I stay in this area, crime is not by me. It's by you also, all over, because they come into your house and they kill you, no matter where you stay or live. So I want to say inclusivity because it's a very, very, very sensitive topic on this one. Because I've dealt with kids in the street, and space, Marlene, I don't care about space. I'll tell you why I'm saying that, guys. Because if you're going to make space an issue, you're never going to get where you need to be, right? You need to live. I always say you need to first scroll and then walk and then run. You can't come here and you just want to run, right? So space, we can work it out afterwards. But what I'm saying now is that that's why the open space I'm working with in Heidelberg is that the flats, the kids, right? In Mitchell's Plain, the flats, the kids, all over the flats. Barntyville, I go there. So what I'm saying is that I have these kids that finish matric, not just disability, but autism, which is a real thing. Which is a real thing, because these kids are always, and I'm a teacher by profession, they get misinterpreted at school level, on school level. I'm a creative arts teacher at school, and I see this happening. Creative arts is supposed to heal, right? So we create a safe space for these autism kids, autistic kids, that normal teachers are not equipped with. Right? And because parents they were on drugs or they're on substance, and these kids are actually, they're having the bad signs of, because of the parents, right? And then you get this child that's so talented, and the child, you get them up to matric level, or even in on the streets, you know, you get them up to matric level, but when they, after matric, like I've applied at the Waterfront Theatre College, at UCT, for people that's talented, but because they don't have the equipment or the resources for those children, their talent goes, it dies. It dies. And that was maybe the only thing that kept them alive. It was within them, the talent. We say, heal the world, make it a better place. Do we really do that?
Hi, I'm going to try to keep it short. My name is Avril. I am the founder and managing director of a company called Kids Theatre. We advocate for children's rights to play using theatre as the medium. Yes, so my question is slightly different, from the finances. We do need the finances, but how do we get, the department, the likes of you, to site visit these organizations to come and see the work that we are doing? The reason I'm asking this is that support could be contributed in many ways. It doesn't always have to be, the connection doesn't have to be money all the time. We would appreciate people from BASA. You come in because we are the future yous. So maybe I could be the CEO of the Artscape, just putting it out there. Oh, definitely. We're the future youth. We need the likes of Marlene hold our hands, because we are a youth-led company, and come identify the loopholes and be like, this is where you can go. We've been running this company for 5 years. We are compliant. We don't have the auditors. I had to sit down and learn. YouTube is the best teacher, by the way. To do my annual returns, to be compliant, BO compliant, ARs, like all these things I had to learn, because I don't have the money to afford these people. So how do we get the department and people like you to visit so that you can help us identify the loopholes and hold our hands and guide us further? Thank you.
I'm going to presume that's a question for William, because he's a government employee here. I'll get you just now.
Hi, everybody. I'm Fahim Stellenboom from the Baxter Theatre. Well done, all of you, on presenting this masterclass. I'm particularly interested in a lot of what you said, Beth. I have to say I've been doing this for a long time. And I'm getting tired of us going round and round in circles. And I think the artists are the same, all of us are the same. Our sector is very specific, it's structured in a certain way. And I think by listening to all the conversation today again, it is very apparent that we need some kind of structure that is a holding structure for artists. So even before we get to the funding, we need some kind of incubator platform that we are able to, simple things like your biography, have you got this right, that leads them to further compliance. And I think that is perhaps pulling all these existing things like Tada, like Stand, like BASA, we need implementation. We need to create a structure that is going to be able to set us up. We hate saying this, but sport is working because they are structured, and things work. And however that is, so the people with the brains, the people with the great research like Stephen, we need that kind of thing, so that we are able to find a sustainable future. That's why we are here for the artist. And just to say, while I'm here, the Baxter Zabalaza Theatre Festival, which happened once a year, is one of the best models that anybody can look at. We don't window dress, we sustain and we hold artists for the entire year. They do, and thank you, through funding from the Western Cape Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport, but it's limited. It's project specifically. As I always say, we're not as fortunate as Marlene and these other state theatres to get millions and millions of rands. Yes, we are part of UCT, but it's a nominal, it's a small amount that UCT supply allocates to the Baxter. The rest we have to fund ourselves. And I think that is where innovation and commitment comes in, because that is what we have to do every single day of our lives at the Baxter. Thank you.
All right, Beth, I'll give that to you. Let's take the last comment from the floor.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elvis Sibeo. I am the company of Artscape. I think I want to go to what Africa said about creating work that is sustainable, that attract international funders, that we export our art over that side. And we are struggling to do that. I'll make a personal example. We want to create a production that attracts West End Broadway. We do have those contacts. It's not that we don't. We do have those contacts. But often they will say, it's not in the level of Broadway. We love the storyline. Everything is there, but we can't. We are failing to get funds to produce an international level of art. And it's always one and the same people. You know, when we're going to get another Peter Torin, David Kramers, when is it? We're lacking mentorship and the handovers. Then we're waiting for our legend to die to create another legend. But while we can create another legend next to the legend that's living, Africa Melane came with a solution that we mustn't bypass it. Create a production that will tour around South Africa. That will be an export. That will be franchise. Talking about sustainable job creation, can you imagine a work that will stay in West End for 5 years? You've created 50 artist jobs to stay that side for 5 years, earning in euros. And that gets franchised. We don't have those productions. Ipintombi, all those productions back in the days. When are we going to create the local productions so that we don't have the idea of that it's cats and all the stuff? I just want to make an example. If you have a production and it's at Artscape 1,500 seats, and your ticket is 300 times 1,500 times 10 days, how much money we can make? That production itself already, it can sustain itself. It can attract. But the people in the panel, they have the power to start the conversations with all these houses because they're sitting in COO meetings, they're sitting in boards and all the stuff. Let's create solutions. And I feel that Africa Melane had that solution.
Thank you very much, Elvis. That's very kind of you. But I certainly do not hold the solutions. And beyond the touring productions, I know some that Michael, for example, who's celebrated an award-winning set designer and costume designer, all of that. He's been asking for where are the next costume designers, set designers going to come from? We have 9 minutes to reflect on all of the questions that you've had in the last 4 rounds. Cornelia, I'm going to start with you.
All of the questions. Things. Okay. The word I was looking for is macro. So we need to take a macro perspective on our industry. And one of the things that we also need to talk about is your question about where are the next generation of designers going to come from is critical. It's really becoming a struggle in our industry. So one of the things that we have to look at is what is happening in our tertiary institutions. What is the curriculum about? What are we teaching students? I know I'm a lecturer at Stellenbosch Drama Department, so I acknowledge my own guilt here as well. But we're very focused on theatre. The industry is looking very different than it used to. Are we training students for our sector, and is the sector ready for the students that we are producing? I think there is a gap, and it's widening all the time. But then we also have to ask, is there work for somebody who wants to become a set designer and a props designer and a wig designer and a costume designer? What is happening to the storage facilities where we keep these things? What is the sustainability in our industry like when we keep designing and building new sets? Who's managing that? Because we keep wasting money in our sector. So there needs to be a very sharp shift in terms of what sustainability looks like in our sector. That will feed into the job creation discussion as well, because we are wasting money on many things. And it's not anyone in particular's fault, it's just the way we come from a heavily subsidized system, and we didn't really disrupt that system. We just went into a different direction, and we expected the artists to swim under the surface. So that's why I keep saying, we can't answer all these questions, and you are 100% correct. That's why I do the Festival Enterprise Catalyst. It's a huge project that we do, which is all about creating tours for work. At the moment, sustainable work in our sector for an artist means you've got more than one festival or theatre run for the same production. We are obsessed with new work in our sector. Instead of saying, how do we keep investing into something that works and can tour for 3 years? But then our challenge is in audience development, because our audiences need to grow as well. So we need to educate our learners in school about why is it important to go to theatre, why is it important that you pay for theatre? Because we can't tour the same work without an audience. So the work has got to be of a certain standard. And I do believe we have the talent and capacity in South Africa to create work of a certain standard. But I also understand, coming from a funding perspective, why there's fallback on existing work that they know will sell tickets, because hopefully that cross-subsidizes other new work. So why, I don't mean to sound like I'm on a soapbox, but it's a nuanced and complicated conversation, and we can find creative solutions for this. If we unpack these discussions in a way that says, this is how this feeds into that, and that feeds into that. Right. And we have to start with a macro perspective, which says, at the top, we have a problem. And that needs to be addressed, and our artists are not equipped, you are certainly equipped, or not empowered.
All right.
To participate in these discussions and make the systemic changes necessary.
All right. Beth, I'm giving you 2 minutes. And you have a specific question from Fahim that you need to address as well. Creating an incubator space for artists before we even do funding.
It's an under-resourced space, the incubation space. There are a few dedicated incubators for the creative sector, but they're not enough. And it is a part of the ecosystem that we need to reinforce. So BASA is going to try and play its role in certain spaces there, like investment readiness and so on. I also think we must be smart. We can use AI and technology to develop tools that help us with compliance and all these things. By the way, we also missed the boat on the AI bill. It's eating our sector alive, and there's no creative sector combined input. So we are now going to do that. We've got a reprieve because they messed up on the, on the actual draft. So
they used AI to create an AI draft.
All right.
So
but I wanted to come back to Elvis quickly, because what Elvis was describing and talking about is a business model. We have the talent, we have the production capacity, we have all these things, but we just don't have the business model. And that's what differentiates what happens in the West End and us. Nothing else. They're not fighting there about the same issues because they've got a business model that works. So let's take the macro view. Let's look at the real needs. There's enough creative people and creative solutions among us here to solve it today if we wanted to, if we had the time. And then let's have the conversations we need to have. It's broken. Let's not try and fix it. Let's come with a new model that works for now. And for what we need, let's also stop short-term planning, because we're always just putting the fire out, fixing the immediate thing. And that's how we end up hand to mouth all the time. Let's have some long-term planning.
All right.
And skills pipeline.
Hold on. We need to give your microphone, because clearly somebody thought. By the way, William, I'm literally going to run out of time, so I won't be able to come to you. So I'm going to ask you that you connect with the lady to talk about how site visits can be enjoyed. And Zach, I know you wanted to have a word as well, but we are out at 12 noon. When that signal bullet goes, we are going to be done. Marlene, I'm going to give you a chance to wrap up, but also to thank the people for gathering in the conversation and what happens next.
I first want to say is that we're big on audience development. It must be. We need to have arts education as a subject from primary school level. We can't just focus on tertiary. It must from there. So our school sector needs to be organized, and we need to put pressure that the arts are of us utmost important as a subject, not just as an arts and culture learning area. The second thing that we focus for the next century that's coming is an academy for artisans, which we talk about technical, lighting designers, stage builder, scenic painters. That's our biggest drive that we're going to have, because it's becoming a dying art at the end. And I'm not going to use job creation. It's about an art. Mentorship is very big. To run an elephant like this, there should be multiple CEOs and arts administrators in order to fill this gap that I'm sitting in with immediate effect. And I want to say that with the utmost respect, so that we are not just seeing ourselves as artists. We need to see ourselves as driving change, but also to run buildings like this with all its complexity that it's there, to understand what this building is to run it. And I want to say here, the next step that we're going to do is to look at that we have, and we put ourselves out there. To sit here today was bravery as well, because we want to hear what you have to say. This is part